Yes, people, Manchester United have lost 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. In a game that was there for us to get something out of, but we just couldn't create anything of note. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah, nothing substantial. I think they kind of offered us a lot of the football, and it was good in the first 2/3, especially in the first half was really exciting, to be honest with you. I really enjoyed watching the first half, but then that final third, in the crucial moments, we have certain players with certain characteristics that makes it difficult to kind of win football matches and kind of dominate and make the right kind of decisions in that final third. So you end up making a lot of mistakes or missing chances or making the wrong decisions, and then lo and behold, obviously, a counter-attack chance, not out of nothing, because you still want to organize yourself in the right kind of way and maybe have more than just the one player back. I think a couple of their counter-attack opportunities, especially talking in the first half, it's only got Mazwari scampering back and players chasing the player with the ball, going backwards. I think at one point in the first half there was I think it was the second counter-attack where there's 4 or 5 players in front of us that all got the red shirt, and then there's only one protecting in the blue shirt. So difficult game to kind of accept, but overall, when you look at it, we're in the Premier League now, and this is where we lie on the table, and this is just another game that speaks to the lack of quality across the board, really, of
So
the team.
much in it. The lack of quality is so bad, isn't it? Like at that top end of the pitch, we've spent over 108 million on strikers in
Yeah,
Højlund and Xerxes, and obviously we've established Xerxes clearly isn't a striker. He's going to keep the ball nice. He's going to knit things together, but he's not a chief creator and he's certainly not a chief scorer. So that's not his role, even though we bought him as that. But 108 million spent between him and Rasmus Højlund, and we got no potency up there at all.
yeah, we're talking about there is buying potential. That's what we're talking about when you speak to that, is potential. Xerxes, I think we've kind of come to see that he's a 10. Some of his best performances have been in that kind of part of the pitch where he's picking up the ball in the half turn and he's expressing himself in the right kind of ways. And then obviously Højlund, Rasmus was, Ten Hag already told us that's the direction that we was going in. Obviously, it's bankers that end up purchasing him in that kind of fashion for that price. So you get that kind of issue that you have to whittle out with, and obviously Sir Jim's going to have a bit of a headache dealing with that, or the whole team is going to have to kind of make that of what they will, and obviously us as fans are going to have to come to terms with that, whether we pursue that potential, for as long and we be patient with that, or we cut our losses and get something that makes more sense. But Xerxes looking like he comes into fruition. He's just not as a striker. Today he kind of done the Harry Kane thing where he drops into the false 9 positions and connects the play. But then when you're asking him to fill the 6-yard box, he doesn't have that now. That desire to kind of be there.
We spoke about it on the stream, bro. Garnacho tonight, talk about attackers not doing enough. He just woeful tonight. The decision making was so shocking from him today.
Yeah. He's one of those players that for me, his best work is done when behind him is the crowd. That when you're attacking the play, when you think about attacking, it's like he's got kind of I want to say like a weird kind of view of the pitch. From the wide areas, you don't usually have things going on around behind you or from the side of you. It's very direct, kind of the way
you got one job, and it's face that way. You can see the grass, you can see the goal, go.
Yeah, so and that's where he excels, and our system doesn't allow that. That's why some people are saying play him on the left wing back, play him on the right wing back role. His
it's not about, bro. It's just more his decision making of like passing, like just wouldn't even pass, like just nothing.
He's greedy. He's a greedy player. He's a greedy footballer. He's one of those that believes in himself and his ability. So you could maybe another one in terms of potential. You could maybe just tag along and wait for that to kind of come into fruition. But the moment that we're in right now as a football club, you kind of need certain players that especially in those key areas of the pitch to deliver now. Really, you'd want someone that you can rely on a lot more. And then when we're talking about 2 10s, Ruben was already telling us, he can only really play on the outside, and what he means by that is going dribbling out into a wide area against the opponent, not dribbling inside of the pitch and then where there's 3 and 4 footballers now coming onto you in quick succession. So he's got a bit of an issue with that, and he's a wide player. That's why he's got that issue. Again, final third, quality end product, not really there. And then, strength. Alanga bullies him for that, really strong run in the first few minutes of the game. So overall, a player that maybe suits a different system, really.
And that is the thing. We are seeing those. It's been a common theme. Yes, you don't want to get onto Garnacho too much, and he's young, and all of these things on the other side. But when you see just the lack of decision-making abilities that he's doing, just not good enough. Patrick Dorgu tonight as well, just kept giving away the ball. Just like the criminal stuff just started to get in there. But it's annoying because it felt like if they would have just had a little bit of quality, even for a couple of moments, like there was something there. So I could have got a draw.
Yeah, well, wing backs are not good enough in this system. I've been saying it for a little while. Delo's just not going to be good enough. For me, Ahmad is the best right wing back in the world, especially when you're talking about this system. And then just think of a Delo now. You just seen the drop off already. You just seen it in your mind. From an Ahmad Diallo to a Delo is just a massive drop off. And then when we talk about characteristics playing in certain positions and then being able to kind of profiteer from that, or our team being able to profiteer from that. When you have Garnacho, who wants to play on the line all the time, then you have Delo that is a wing back. They're stifling each other's space, so then you're asking Delo maybe to come inside and do that KDB right defensive mid kind of balls over the top, or that Casemiro special, as we would like to call it, from those kind of pockets. And he's not really doing that well. Mazraoui sometimes does it, but that's from the right that's from the right centre back position. So you need a proper wing back, a Hakimi, or somebody that's left-footed. KG was talking about the young fella that plays in the youth team right now. He's really good, is excitable, left-footed right wing back, and maybe again, I'm speaking to getting some of the young players in the first team now. It's paramount that we do that because we're at a stage of the season now where we shouldn't worry about this. I'm not overly worried about this. This whole season, it's kind of vibe of don't get too excited with the highs and don't get too low with the lows. So. Just it's about being focused on the characteristics of the players and how these current characteristics of certain players, are they going to benefit this football team going forward? And, Delo is one of those that I just don't see that happening. Going on to Dorgu then, been out the team for a little while, still coming into the process, still, trying to find his feet within the team. And it looked like that today. The crowd swallowed him up, the performance swallowed him up. When you make one mistake, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 happen. That's part of the process, really. We've seen good sides of his performances since he's come in. Now you're seeing a bad one today. So wouldn't look too much into it. Still looks like a monster presence, the whole kind of player. Still looks really
got the physicality, yeah, but he's just not. It's obviously the deft touch, which we've got to wait for him to develop. I hear that, but listen, the league is the league. We ain't going anywhere in the league. It was just disappointing that actually that game was there to get something out of. Really, Maguire at the end there cleared off the line. That game was there, but yeah, there you go, bro. Big up, man. Respect, man. We go again. Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Sunday. Oh, mate. City. We've got to put them to the sword. Hopefully they put a better showing in tonight. We're out of here. Peace.